my philosophy students. It's Barbara, Professor Guess again, and we are now talking about why God allows evil, the essay. We just spent last week talking about does God exist, and we talked about logical reasons that God might exist. Now, for this particular essay, we're going to take a different approach, and we're going to assume that God does exist. So, no more debate. We're just all, whether you agree with it or not, are just going to pretend that God does exist. And, sorry, I'm looking in the video, and I'm like, oh, my hair, I need to brush it. So, sorry. Sorry about that. Okay, so, we are all going to assume that God exists. So, that is our question. We're going to do the checklist. When you do the reading, always look for the 6 items that we talked about. Step 1. What is the philosophical question being asked? Well, what we're asking is, does a belief in an all-good, all-powerful God conflict with recognizing that evil exists in our world? Evil exists in our world. So, does that idea conflict with believing in an all-good, all-powerful God? Why would it conflict? Think about it. If I snapped my fingers and gave you the powers of Superman, and you were on a sidewalk, and you saw a little boy or a little girl about to get run over by a train, or a bus, or a truck, what would you do? You would save the boy or girl. Why? Because you have the power to save the boy or girl, and it's evil. You don't want the kid to get hurt. So you, being a good person and with the power to stop evil, would stop evil. So why doesn't God? Does evil and God conflict? That's our question. In step 2, where we define our terms, our definition of God is, he's going to take a very generic definition where he uses like 3 characteristics that he thinks most religions will agree upon. God is all good, all powerful, and creator of the universe. So that's our definition of God. We all assume, for the sake of this essay, that God exists and that God is all good, all powerful, and creator of the universe. All right, step 3. How does Swinburne answer the question? Swinburne is going to argue that no, a belief in an all good, all powerful God does not conflict with accepting evil in our world. So there's no conflict for Swinburne. He's going to try to explain why an all-good, all-powerful God would allow evil into the world. That's the whole point of the essay. How can you believe in both God and accept evil? All right? So the answer to the question is no, there is no conflict. So step 4 in our checklist, support your answer, or what is the author's supporting argument? Why does Swinburne believe what he believes? Well, we have to give an answer for why Swinburne thinks that God would allow moral evil into the world and why God would allow natural evil into the world. I'm sorry, I forgot to define those 2 terms in step 2. There are 2 more key terms we need to define. Moral evil and natural evil. Evil, in general, is suffering. So suffering is evil. But if you think about all the suffering on our planet, it falls into 2 different categories. It falls into the category of the things we do to each other, moral evil. If you came up and slapped me, that would be moral evil. You're causing suffering because you're doing it. Or assuming you slapped me. All right. Then the other category of suffering is the things that we're not causing. We're not in control of. Human beings are not in control of earthquakes, tsunamis, diseases, accidents. These are things that we are not in control of. So Swinburne is going to decide on 2 major categories for evil. Moral evil, what we do to each other. Natural evil, what we have no control over. Natural disasters, accident, and diseases is considered natural evil. So when we get, as we're doing now, to step 4, how does Swineberg say that an all-good, all-powerful God would accept moral evil into the world? All right? Because he has to give an explanation for both moral evil and natural evil. His explanation for moral evil is what we call, in philosophy, the free will defense. Human beings have free will. And because I can do both good and bad, I can do bad things. I can come up and slap you. Not that I'm going to. So if I did that, that's going to cause suffering. Now, God, being good, wants to give people good things. And if you were going to create a world and you wanted to give your beings good things, would you give them free will? Because if you give them free will, then you have to allow evil into the world. Because if we have free will, we get to choose between doing good things and bad things. If you only get to choose between doing good and doing really good, that's not really a choice. It's not free will. So, God, being all good, wants to give humans good things. And decides that giving us free will is a greater good than the suffering caused by moral evil. And that's why you can believe in an all-good, all-powerful God and also accept the evil into the world without a conflict. Because God, giving us good things, gives us free will. But once he gives us free will, he has to allow moral evil into the world. Because if he stopped you from doing every bad thing you ever wanted to do, that wouldn't be free will. So God is good and could stop evil, but chooses not to because he gave us free will. That explains why God would allow moral evil into the world. So why would God allow natural evil into the world? Well, according to Swinburne, all this is according to Swinburne, the reason why God would allow natural evil into the world, because not only is free will a good thing, but the more you use your free will, the better off you are. And natural disasters, diseases, and accidents enhance your free will. They force upon you choices that you have to make. Imagine you're at home, your best friend calls you up, I have the flu, I'm so sick. Okay, so her being sick, natural evil. She had no choice in getting the flu. All right. I'm not debating the flu shot. All right. So she broke her leg, some kind of accident. She has a problem. All right. Natural evil. Now she calls you, help me. This forces upon you an array of choices. You can decide to help her. You can decide to ignore her message. You can take her soup. And these are all choices you have to make. You can't get out of making them. You can pretend to get out of making and tell her, oh, I never got your message. That's still making a choice. All right? Not that it will, but if a tornado hits right now into this room, I'm in the library at Bergen right now at Meadowlands, I would have to make decisions. I would have to decide whether to run over people to get out of the house, out of the room, or whether to stop and help people. So basically, Swinburne is going to say God allows natural evil into the world because it enhances our free will. And that's a good thing. That's step 4. How does Swinburne support his answer? Step 5, find the flaw. What is the flaw here? Well, where's the weak spot? Well, the weak spot is really the natural evil. Because very few people are going to criticize the idea that we have free will. Okay? And that's a good thing. But the natural evil is a separate issue. We have tornadoes and accidents and diseases. And yes, it does enhance our free will. But does it enhance our free will enough to say it's a greater good than the suffering it's causing? If it's not, then there's a conflict between natural evil and God. That is the flaw in the argument. We don't need natural evil. We have free will. We have enough range of choices. We don't need natural evil to enhance our free will. That's the flaw. Step 6, how does Swinburne respond to this answer? Swinburne says, and honestly here, he's more optimistic about the world than I am. I tend to accept the free will defense for moral evil, but I tend to agree with the opposing viewpoint, my personal opinion, that we really don't need disasters, natural disasters and diseases and accidents. But for the purpose of this, I'm trying to get across Swinburne's answer. And Swinburne's going to come back and say, no, we need natural evil because the world would be too good without it. Our world would turn into a utopia. People would just kind of, without diseases and natural disasters and accidents, we would all be so happy and wonderful that you wouldn't have to make any decisions. That's his response to the flaw. He probably wouldn't like my retelling of it because I kind of maybe made it sound a little too good, but he does. His response is the world would be too good. My personal opinion, not sure it would be, but I get where he's coming from. If all of a sudden we stopped having natural disasters, diseases, and all these things, it would be. You wouldn't have to make as many decisions in the world. And that is why God allows evil. Hope you're enjoying the semester. I'm going to upload this. As the semester moves on, I'll probably be uploading these like right the week before we start them. So I'll try to get them up a few days beforehand so you can listen to them. And email me. Have a good one. I'll see you next week.